I received a lot of interest for this topic. It's how do you balance grappling or combat sports and lifting? And I'm just going to tell you my experience and some things that work for me. There are many things, or many ways you can train for different sports. One thing I've always hated about specifically jiu-jitsu, it's the mantra, don't use your strength. I'm a little bit stupid. So when I hear don't use your strength, right away, I hold back. Because I'm thinking, okay, it's technique, I should be focusing on that. But the mantra should be, don't rely on your strength. Don't solely use your strength, because you would never tell someone to not use any other attribute. Don't use your speed, flexibility. Why would you tell someone not to use a physical attribute? So now that that's out of the way, strength will obviously make you better at combat sports. I was just watching an old workout video by Ricky Hatton, the boxer, and he was saying there's so many old school boxing coaches that just don't want anyone to do any strength and conditioning. They think you should only be sparring and working on technique. And he goes, I don't believe in that. I've never believed in that. He weight trains. He says a stronger muscle is going to have more potential to be explosive. And it's crazy how that can be even a tiny bit controversial. So here are 8 things that have helped me balance a schedule between grappling and rolling and lifting. Point number 1, make your lifting days your grappling days as well if your schedule permits this. I learned this from watching Phil Daru. Okay, he trains a lot of combat athletes. He was a mixed martial arts fighter himself, and he says the reason for this is, let's say you lift Monday, train a grapple Tuesday, lift Wednesday, grapple and train Thursday, lift Friday, and then grapple and train Saturday. Let's say you take Sunday off. Assuming your grappling sessions are going to be hard ones, you just have 6 hard days. There's no easy, there's no active recovery, there's no rest days there, apart from Sunday. A better approach is to stack them on both days to where Monday, lifting and grappling. Wednesday, lifting and grappling. Friday, lifting and grappling. Maybe Saturday, just grappling, something like that. So you have 3 great active recovery and rest days. So you're getting more, sure, those days are going to be harder, but think of the high-low approach. You're going to have a high-stress day and a low-stress day. That allows for actual more recovery. So sure, like I said, you can have grappling only days or lifting only days. Just I would try and do as many dual days as your recovery and body can handle. That's what works for me. Phil Daru is very well accomplished with training mixed martial arts fighters and kickboxers and whatever he trains. He's even trained UFC athletes. I think that's a good approach. But when you do this, you need to be careful of the order of sessions and how close they are. So I always lift first thing in the morning, and my grappling sessions were either at 12 p.m. or 8 p.m. at night. So they were very far apart from each other. This allows you to get rest and recovery between the sessions so that you are not letting the lifting affect your BJJ training, wrestling, whatever it is. So just make sure you have, maybe I'll say, if schedule permits, 6 hours in between. I would say minimum is 4, which brings me to my next point. Lifting should always be before your grappling. I know that seems counterintuitive, but I just feel like your strength and conditioning won't take away as much from the sport training as the other way around. Now, I'm not saying lifting should take a priority, whereas you're focusing more on your strength and conditioning than your sport, because that's just ass backwards. But I just feel like it kind of wakes up your CNS. And I'll explain how to do this without fatiguing yourself for practice and drilling in a sec. Now, when you are doing both of these, you want to cut excessive volume. You want to use the minimum effective dose. Don't do 5 sets of one exercise when you could get the same amount of gains with 2. Think stimulate, don't annihilate. Do the least amount of work to get stronger. Do the least amount of work to get more muscular if you need to pull more muscle on your frame. And do the least amount of work to get faster. That is how you will be able to balance grappling and lifting. So you want to be in the sweet spot. Training your grip, your forearms, and your neck are non-negotiable. Those are 3 things you need to be training. It will make you much more successful in whatever combat sport you are doing. If you're not training these things, honestly, you're leaving a lot of physical improvements on the table or off the table. I can't remember what that saying is. Also, another thing you should use a lot of are sandbag and zercher movements. They're very front-loaded. They simulate maybe you preventing someone from shooting on you, not with a gun in case you're uneducated, shooting like it's a style of takedown. It's front-loaded. It simulates the weight being in front of you, which is where your opponent will be 90% of the time when you're standing up, just like the zercher movements. A sandbag squats, it simulates you picking up a dead load in front of you, which is like another human being. Once again, if you're not training those 2 things and they're not in your routine, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table. I would use exercises with a longer range of motion. Never do half reps unless it's for a reason, which I'll touch upon in a sec. But you should be doing like ATG squats, not just like bare minimum powerlifting squats. Can be of benefit. But if you're never experiencing these large ranges of motion, when you get put into one of those ranges of motion by force by someone else, it can lead to injury. Also, this doesn't mean get rid of the barbells, only squat till your ass touches the floor, only use dumbbells, only go through large ranges of motion. Because you do want to be strong in partial ranges of motion as well. So you got to vary your ranges of motion. What I am saying, though, is don't get stuck in the powerlifting mentality of just moving the weight to move the most amount of weight. Partial ranges of motion can also be beneficial, but you don't want that to be the bulk of your training. So I like conjugate for athletes. Max effort work has to be heavily modified. Don't just always go for a 1 rep max. You could go for a 3 rep max, a 5 rep max. You can do some volume work, maybe 5 sets of 3, 5 sets of 2. Your max, your heavy work doesn't always have to be a grinder till your eyes start bleeding. What would you do for dynamic effort work? I recommend the style of training I have in my GPP ebook. Go check that out. And then my repetition effort method, so like your bodybuilding stuff, I also recommend the GPP ebook for that as well. Or the conditioning ebook, which is what I've renamed it. Before I conclude, if there is enough interest, I will start working on a grappling / conjugate method ebook, how to balance these 2 things out, schedules, assistance work, main work, how to taper down for a competition. If there's interest, I'm not going to write it if there's no interest and hope people just pick it up. I'm only going to do it if there's interest. Hope you like this video and have yourself a great day, ladies and gentlemen.